3 years ago at 52, I walked out of my office for the last time. I had the golden ticket, early retirement with a healthy investment portfolio, no debt, and endless dreams of freedom. What followed wasn't the paradise I'd imagined, but a journey through regret, identity crisis, and harsh reality checks no financial planner ever mentioned. If you're planning early retirement, dreaming of escaping the 9-to-5 grind, or following the FIRE movement, this video could save you from making mistakes that no spreadsheet can calculate. I'm going to share 5 hard lessons I learned after retiring early, lessons that turned my dream into something I now question every day. Early retirement is the new American dream. Social media is flooded with images of 40-somethings traveling the world, free from corporate shackles, living their best lives. The FIRE movement, financial independence, retire early, has convinced an entire generation that with enough saving and investing, you can buy freedom decades before your parents did. I was a true believer. I did everything right according to the early retirement playbook. I lived well below my means for years, invested aggressively, built a portfolio supposedly strong enough to sustain me for decades, and counted down the days until I could declare myself financially independent. The day I retired early, my colleagues threw me a party. They were envious, congratulatory, and more than a little jealous. "You're living the dream," they said. "I wish I could do what you're doing." I walked out of that office feeling like I'd won at life. What no one prepared me for was the complex reality waiting on the other side of that exit door. The financial models accounted for market fluctuations, inflation, and withdrawal rates, but they didn't account for the psychological, social, and existential challenges that would follow. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on early retirement, not to discourage you entirely, but to help you understand what you're really signing up for. These aren't just my experiences. I've since connected with dozens of other early retirees who've confronted the same hard truths, because when it comes to early retirement, what you don't know can cost you far more than money. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the math of early retirement is actually the easiest part of the equation. You'll learn what questions you should be asking beyond, "Do I have enough money?" And you'll discover what I wish I'd done differently before making this life-altering decision. Make sure you stay until the end, because my 5th lesson contains the most important insight of all, one that completely reframed how I think about work, purpose, and what true freedom actually means. Whether you're 5 years or 5 months from pulling the trigger on early retirement, this information could completely change your approach. So let's dive into the 5 hard lessons about early retirement that no one warned me about. The first hard lesson no one warns you about: your identity will collapse faster than you can imagine. For 28 years, I was Sarah, the marketing executive. It was how I introduced myself at parties, how I thought about myself when I woke up in the morning, and a framework that gave structure and meaning to my days. Then suddenly, I was just Sarah. The day after retirement, I sat at my kitchen table with my morning coffee and felt a wave of panic I hadn't anticipated. Who was I now? I didn't expect this identity crisis. I'd always complained about my job, the politics, the stress, the deadlines. I thought I wanted freedom from that identity. What I didn't realize was how much of my self-worth, social status, and sense of purpose was tied to my professional role. Without it, I felt strangely hollow, almost invisible. The research backs this up. Studies show that work provides more than income. It offers status, structure, social connection, and a sense of contribution. When those elements disappear overnight, many early retirees experience what psychologists call role exit distress. It's similar to what happens when someone loses a spouse or experiences empty nest syndrome. A fundamental part of how you understand yourself suddenly vanishes. What makes this particularly challenging is that it happens when you're supposed to be celebrating. Friends and family expect you to be ecstatic about your newfound freedom. Admitting you're struggling feels like failure, like you're ungrateful for the privilege of early retirement. So many of us suffer in silence, wondering why achievement of our big goal feels so unexpectedly empty. Ask yourself this question honestly. When you imagine retirement, are you more focused on what you're escaping from rather than what you're moving toward? If your retirement dream is defined primarily by the absence of work rather than the presence of meaningful alternatives, you may be headed for the same identity crisis I experienced. The second hard lesson: your social life will disintegrate in ways you can't anticipate. 6 months into retirement, I realized I hadn't spoken to anyone outside my immediate family for nearly a week. My social circle had quietly collapsed. The colleagues I thought were friends stopped calling after our initial "let's definitely stay in touch" promises. The daily banter, lunches, and happy hours disappeared. Even my non-work friends became harder to connect with. They were busy during the week, and weekends were devoted to family or recovery from their work weeks. I hadn't appreciated how much of my social interaction was built around work. The water cooler conversations, team meetings, client dinners, they formed the fabric of my social life without me realizing it. Suddenly, I was outside this world, with no natural way to remain part of it. The isolation of early retirement hits particularly hard because it's unexpected. When you retire at the traditional age, many of your peers are retiring too. You have natural companions for your new life stage. But when you retire early, you're out of sync with your age group. Your friends are still climbing career ladders, raising children, and navigating busy midlife schedules. Their reality no longer aligns with yours. What's more, the working world moves on quickly. Within months, I felt out of touch with industry. Developments, inside jokes, and the shared experiences that had connected me to my professional network. I became less relevant to conversations, less able to contribute meaningfully to discussions about work challenges. Even making new friends became harder. One of the first questions people ask when meeting someone new is, "What do you do?" My answer, "I'm retired," often created awkward pauses, followed by assumptions about my age or circumstances. It became a conversational dead end rather than a starting point for connection. Ask yourself, have you considered where your social connections will come from when you're no longer part of the working world? What communities exist that can provide the belonging and interaction you'll still need every day? The third hard lesson. Financial security feels more fragile after retirement, not less. The math said I had enough. My spreadsheets, reviewed by multiple financial advisors, confirmed I could withdraw 5% of my portfolio annually and never run out of money. I had contingency plans, buffer years, and conservative projections. Objectively, I was financially secure. Yet, 3 months after retiring, I found myself checking my investment accounts multiple times daily, feeling waves of panic with every market dip. When I was working, market volatility didn't bother me much. I had income flowing in regardless, and retirement was a distant goal. But once that paycheck stopped, my entire future depended on this finite pool of money performing as projected for decades. What I didn't expect was the psychological weight of knowing there's no more money coming in. Ever. No raises, bonuses, or new opportunities to increase my financial security. My financial future was now tied entirely to decisions I'd already made and factors beyond my control. That knowledge created an anxiety I hadn't experienced during my working years, even during times of greater objective financial stress. This anxiety was compounded by unexpected expenses. Just 8 months into retirement, I needed a new roof, a $15,000 expense I hadn't factored into that year's budget. While I had emergency funds, watching my carefully calculated withdrawal rate get thrown off course was deeply unsettling. Each unexpected expense now felt threatening in a way it never had when I was earning income. The healthcare uncertainty was even worse. I'd budgeted generously for insurance premiums and out-of-pocket costs, but the constant legislative changes to healthcare policy left me feeling perpetually vulnerable. What if premiums doubled? What if coverage changed? With potentially 40-plus years of retirement ahead, these unknowns loomed larger than I'd anticipated. Ask yourself, have you psychologically prepared for the transition from accumulation to depletion? Can you handle watching your life savings fluctuate without the safety net of earned income? The fourth hard lesson, meaningful activities don't automatically fill the void of work. I had lists, actual written lists, of all the things I would always do when I had time. Learn Italian, master photography, volunteer with literacy programs, travel through Southeast Asia. The first few months I attacked these lists with enthusiasm. I signed up for classes, bought equipment, made commitments. By month 4, my Italian textbook was gathering dust. My expensive camera sat unused. My volunteer coordinator had stopped calling after I repeatedly cancelled shifts. The problem wasn't lack of time or interest. It was lack of structure, accountability, and the deeper purpose these activities were supposed to provide. What I didn't understand before retiring was that hobbies and even volunteer work don't automatically provide the sense of purpose that work often does. Work, for all its frustrations, provides built-in challenges, feedback mechanisms, collaborative relationships, and visible impact. Your contribution is acknowledged, measured, and often rewarded. These elements give work meaning beyond the paycheck. Recreational activities, by contrast, are largely self-directed. There's no external structure forcing you to show up, improve, or contribute consistently. The stakes are lower, the feedback less regular, the impact often less visible. Without these external frameworks, many early retirees find themselves adrift, cycling through activities without the satisfaction they expected. Even more surprising was how quickly leisure activities lost their appeal when they became available in unlimited quantities. Activities I'd once craved during busy work weeks, reading novels, taking long walks, watching documentaries, became less satisfying when they were always available. The contrast between work and leisure that had made free time so precious was gone. Ask yourself, beyond escaping work stress, what will provide meaning, challenge, and purpose in your retirement? Have you experienced extended periods without external structure before? How did you respond? The final hard lesson, and the most profound one I've learned: freedom without purpose becomes its own kind of prison. 18 months into retirement, I hit my lowest point. I had what most people dream of: financial security, complete freedom, no obligations or schedules imposed by others. Yet I felt more constrained than when I was working 50-hour weeks. Each morning stretched before me with endless options, but decreasing motivation to pursue any of them. The freedom I'd sacrificed so much to achieve had become a burden rather than a liberation. What I've come to understand is that humans need purpose more than we need freedom. We need to feel that our days matter, that our existence has meaning beyond our own pleasure and comfort. Work, for all its constraints, often provides this purpose automatically. In retirement, you must consciously create it for yourself. A much harder task than most early retirement advocates acknowledge. The most fulfilled early retirees I've met aren't those who successfully escaped work. They're those who used their financial freedom to realign their relationship with work and contribution. Some started businesses driven by passion rather than profit. Others transitioned to part-time consulting. Many found ways to mentor or teach others in their field. What they all have in common is that they maintained a connection to productive work on their own terms. This insight fundamentally changed my approach. 3 years into retirement, I've started a small consulting practice helping non-profits with their marketing strategies. I work about 15 hours a week, charge less than market rate, and only take projects I find meaningful. This isn't a financial decision, it's an existential one. I need to know my skills and experience are still valuable, that I'm still contributing, something meaningful to the world. The great irony I've discovered is that meaningful work, freely chosen, provides more genuine freedom than no work at all. It gives purpose to leisure, creates natural social connections, and provides the contrast necessary to truly enjoy unstructured time. Work isn't the enemy of freedom. Purposelessness is. Ask yourself honestly, is your retirement dream about escaping something negative or creating something positive? What will make your days matter when no one is expecting anything from you? These 5 hard lessons, the collapse of identity, the disintegration of social connections, the psychological fragility of financial security, the challenge of creating meaningful activities, and the paradox of freedom without purpose, represent the hidden curriculum of early retirement that no one teaches. Had I understood these challenges before retiring, I would have made very different preparations. I would have built stronger non-work relationships, developed clearer post-retirement purposes, and created transition structures to ease the psychological shift. Most importantly, I might have redesigned my relationship with work rather than abandoned it entirely. This isn't to say early retirement is a mistake for everyone. Financial independence remains a worthy goal, and the ability to choose how you spend your time is a privilege. But the FIRE movement's focus on the financial aspects of early retirement overlooks the complex human needs that work often fulfills. What I've learned through my journey is that the goal shouldn't be to stop working as early as possible. It should be to create a life where the boundaries between work and leisure blur, where contribution and pleasure complement rather than oppose each other, and where financial security enables purpose rather than replacing it. If this video resonated with you, please hit the like button and share it with someone who might be planning their own early retirement. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, whether you're already retired, planning to retire soon, or rethinking your approach after watching. For more content about creating a financially secure and purposeful life, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. We release new videos every Thursday that go beyond conventional wisdom to tackle the real challenges of financial independence. Thank you for your attention today. Remember, the goal isn't to escape work. It's to create a life where work and freedom exist in harmony, where financial security enables purpose rather than replacing it. Until next time, keep planning wisely for both your financial and emotional future.